butterfly in the sky. I can go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. I can go anywhere. Friends to know and ways to grow, a reading rainbow. I can be anything. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. Reading rainbow. Reading rainbow. Reading rainbow.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Your boy Charles Arnaz World, and we are doing a special edition of Reading Rainbow. I decided to do a little, I was reminiscing of Reading Rainbow and with LeVar Burton, so I figured I'll do one. And this one is about a book called NWA, Not Without Alonzo. Alonzo, I believe his name is Alonzo Williams. He was actually the guy who gave Dr. Dre, and actually NWA and Eazy-E, their star, Alonzo Williams, he wrote his own biography. So we're gonna go ahead and get into it, and I'm gonna come back to my reaction. It's actually a really dope book, man. This particular chapter is when he got his break at a famous club called Eve After Dark. And I'm gonna come back with my stories and, well, I'm not from LA, but stories I've heard about Eve After Dark. So we're gonna go ahead and play a little excerpt of his book, and we'll come back to my reaction. And guess what? You don't have to take my word for it. I remember that from Reading Rainbow. All y'all old people remember Reading Rainbow. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into it, guys.
Eve After Dark. After my dad saw me at Alpine Village, shortly after I got laid from Record Shack, he talked to his friend Jeffrey Harris about what I was doing. Jeffrey had a club called Jeffy's. My dad and him were best friends. Jeffrey was a contractor. My dad was a part-time landscaper, and they did a lot of work together. Plus, Jeffy's was my dad's drinking joint. Jeffrey had just built his second floor over his club. It was a banquet hall, had little to no success, and my old man suggested that Jeffrey give me an opportunity based on my success at Alpine. Jeffrey's 6'4", deep voice, and a facial expression that looked like he's always mad. Nice guy, just looked like he's always mad. My dad brought me to him. I was 21 years old. I was fucking terrified. I walked up the stairs, not knowing that one day this would be my office. Jeffrey trusted my old man's opinion. My dad walked me to his office. This was like 30-some years ago. Set me down on the other side of the same desk I'm sitting at right now, and turned me over to Jeffrey. Look, man, my son wants to be in the entertainment business. He's giving dances at Alpine Village. He's getting a good crowd. He's making money. If you're going to do something, anybody can teach him how to do it. You can. He might want to come over here and check you out to see if you guys can make some money together. Jeffrey's deep voice announced a warning. Look it, goddammit. If I give you opportunity and you fuck me, I'm going to kick your ass, understood? Now my dad chimes in. If he has to kick your ass, you got 2 ass kickings coming. He has permission to kick your ass, and if he has to kick your ass, I'm going to kick your ass for making him have to kick your ass and making me look bad. This is how they talk to me. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, what have I gotten myself into? With this warning out the way, Jeffrey gave me his rules. I don't want no dope in my club. I don't want this. I don't want that. And the first time any of this shit's a problem, I'm kicking your ass out, you gone. I was under pressure walking in the door. I went and talked to my boy Roger. Hey man, I got a chance to do this spot over on Avalon El Segundo. You want a piece of it? Hell no, that's Shermhead territory. Hell no, you can have that. I don't want to fuck with that. I don't want nothing to do with that. You can keep that. What Roger didn't realize is I was from the Shermhead infested area, born and raised all my life. I knew all the Shermheads. I knew the dudes that sold the Sherm. I knew everybody. Anyway, he turned it down, so I reluctantly went to my girl Jeannie. Look, fairy godmother, I have an opportunity to do something. You want in? Sure. What do we need? It's probably going to take about $1,100 to get started. That was the beginning of Eve After Dark. Jeffrey charged us $600 a week, $300 a night. Plus, we had to put together advertising. I was passing out flyers. Jeannie was there in the very beginning. She financed my start. It didn't take off right away. She'd give me $1,100 on a Monday. I give Jeffrey his money. I gave Jeannie her money on Sunday, and I'd still be broke on Monday. We opened Eve After Dark, 1979, June 22nd to be exact. Rappers of Light came out around the same time, and Eve After Dark opened with Parliament Funkadelic dropping knee deep. All this shit was happening at the same time. We were passing out flyers and hanging posters, kind of stumbling our way around. We were doing okay, but not great. I could pay a few bills at home, keep Jeffy happy, give Jeannie her money back. Everything was cool. Shortly after I opened Eve After Dark, I met a brother named Lewis Harper. He ran a record pool called the R&B Disco Truth. At that time, Lewis was the promotion director for Arista Records. Lewis would hang at the Eve After Dark to see the response to the records that he was promoting. Eventually, we became friends. One day, he called me to pick up some records from his brother-in-law's office. He introduced me to his brother-in-law, Gerald Busby, who was also the director of promotions. I had no idea at the time, but Gerald Busby was probably one of the most powerful black men in the music industry, along with Berry Gordy. That's his league. He told Lewis he had some appearances for Cameo Friday and Saturday, but nothing during the week. Did he know of any clubs that he can take him to? And I'm sitting there like a kid. I raised my hand like I had the answer to the question in third grade. Mister, I have a club. And Gerald looked at me and said, what club you got? Lewis says he runs Jeffy's on Alonzo Segundo. Gerald looked at me and said, you want Cameo to come to your club? And I'm so surprised. I'm like, yeah. And sure enough, just like that, Cameo was booked to come to the Eve After Dark the next day. Now, I got to get busy. I got Cameo coming to the club. First of all, ain't nobody going to believe me. I ran to K-Day, called my girl Rochelle. I bought 10 10-second spots, live reads, and all they said was, tonight at Eve After Dark, Cameo live in person. Tonight, Eve After Dark, Alonzo Segundo, Cameo live in person tonight. That was the best $100 I ever spent in my life. Cameo was hot as fish grease. Their song, Shake Your Pants, was blazing up the charts, and they were on their way to Eve After Dark. Cameo's promotion company gave us a bunch of album covers and flats to hang around the club. Nobody believed they were coming, but they came just to make sure I was lying. Cameo showed up. Well, not all the Cameo. They sent the horn section. Anybody knows about big bands back in the day, they were always 9-10 pieces, but they included a horn section. They didn't send Larry Blackman or the singers, they sent the horn section. But because we had the flats on the walls, the girls were able to take them off the wall, put them next to the guys' faces, and verify Cameo was an Eve After Dark. And from that point on, Eve After Dark was the hottest spot in LA for at least 2.5, 3 years. That was my first time at Eve After Dark ever making over $2,000. And I still had Friday and Saturday. I was on my way, finally. While we were enjoying our success at Eve After Dark, our crosstown rivals, Roger and Uncle Jam's Army, was building up some steam of his own. Roger and his boys actually came to me 5 months later after we got the Eve rolling and tried to get in on what was now the hottest spot in the city. Andre, a.k.a. the Unknown DJ, who was head of my promotions and my music director and my right-hand man, politely, in his dry but humorous way, told Roger to kiss all of his ass. There was no place like Eve After Dark. Eve After Dark was the only teen club in the city with the exception of the Workshop on 91st and Western. It was near, but not in Compton, technically a quarter mile out of Compton. We got a lot of support from Compton, Watts, Gardena, everybody. Days of style. We were always dressed to the T. We wore slacks, we wore dress shirts, we were clean every day. That was the difference between today and back in the day. We had a different dress code, we had a different look, we had a different feel, we had a different vibe. Back then, we didn't wear tennis shoes on a regular basis. Tennis shoes was something you did when you go to play basketball. I recall playing football in dress shoes and slacks because we could. If you ever see New Jack City, you'll see G-Money and Nino playing basketball in dress shoes and slacks. We take off our shirts be bare-chested, playing basketball in dress shoes and slack. That was a sign of a real hustler back then. Because the Eve was located in the county of Los Angeles, it didn't fall under the same rules as the city of LA or Compton. We were able to do things a lot different back then. One of the things we did at the Eve that you couldn't do nowhere else, we had after hours. In the orders of city of LA and Compton, all entertainment had to stop at 2 o'clock. No bands, no jukeboxes, anything. Well, nobody said anything about DJs. And for the first few years of Eve After Dark, we stayed open till 5 a.m. based on that loophole alone. That made us not only the hottest spot for kids, but it also made us a hot after-hours spot because sometimes we didn't close until 6. The only other club that gave us competition was the Carolina West. You had to be 18 for ladies, 21 for guys. Eve After Dark, as long as you was 18 years old, everybody came in. We had everything going smooth for years. Then it got kind of redundant. So we started experimenting. We started bringing in live entertainment, like bands. But one of the best things I did was to bring in Robin Harris to host the show. Yes, Baby Kids Robin Harris was my main man at Eve After Dark for years before he went to the Comedy Act Theater. In fact, Robin met his wife, Zanetta, downstairs singing in Jeffy's while he was doing comedy upstairs at Eve After Dark. Shortly after that, I wanted to make a record. I thought it would blow up like Run DMC, so we headed to the studio with some basic drum beats, kick drums, and a scratch record. The type of sound Run DMC would make. The vocals were done by Clientele, the scratch was done by Yella, the record was called Slice. We recorded this song in 45 minutes, sold about 2,500 copies, and that kicked off our record career. Before we made Slice, we went to the studio and recorded our first song called the EAD Rap. Featured myself, Unknown DJ, Dr. Rock, Billy T, and Sweet Ron Ron. The record never came out because we were afraid of the federal imprint at the bottom of the record saying that it was a federal offense to record a record without permission. And we didn't have the permission, and we never put the record out.
What's up, man? So what y'all thought about that? Pretty good. I didn't know that about this. You know, it's interesting to hear this history about LA and these different nightclubs and night spots. I've heard stories about Eve After Dark. My friend actually did an event at Eve After Dark. Well, I don't even think it's called Eve After Dark now. It's called something else. It's pretty much just a vacant banquet area. People use it to host events and weddings and birthday parties and stuff like that. So it's not even a nightclub no more. It's just a regular, like, shell of itself of its heyday when Dr. Dre and Alonzo was running around back in the 80s and early 80s. So it's just right now, it's just like a regular cleaned out space, for people just to throw birthday parties now, kind of sad. You wish that would have went on and became bigger and bigger and maybe became like a historical landmark, even though it is kind of a historical landmark in music and hip hop, because that's where Dr. Dre and of course NWA got their start, but it's just, you would wish that spot would have went on to become more than what it was. You know what I'm saying? It's just interesting to hear these stories. I love hearing history of hip hop and people that influenced different parts of hip hop and just back in the day, and listen to him talk about how they dressed back then. He talked about how, back then they didn't play basketball and sneak. Like back then, those days in the early 80s, I guess late 70s, people didn't wear sneakers all the time. Right now, sneakers is like the common shoe now. That's why the sneaker industry is $1 billion industry, because that's like, nobody wears hard bottom shoes no more. They call them hard. We used to call them dress shoes. It's funny, a young cat online got on me the other day because I still call hard bottoms, as they call them. I still call them dress shoes. That's what we called them back in the day. We called them dress shoes because you wore those particular shoes when you got dressed up. You wore your slacks and you wore your coat, whatever. You put on your dress shoes. You were getting dressed up. That's my mom used to call them dress shoes. Anyway, what do y'all think about that book, man? Not Without Alonzo. Y'all can check it out on Audible. This particular book is on Audible. Y'all can go and purchase it and check it out. It's really, really good book by Alonzo. It's pretty much just him talking about the history, him starting from Compton and working his way down, and NWA and the Wrecking Crew. Turn Off the Lights was a big hit, which was he helped start the career of Miss Chalet. Miss Chalet is a famous R&B singer. Anyway, what y'all think about the book, man? Leave your comments and subscribe to Charles and Israel. Hit that thumbs up button. Appreciate it.